Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am joined by James Kearney. How's it going, James?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing all right. But I should apologise to I'll apologise to the viewers, the listeners, subscribers. It's entirely my fault that we're very late. So for once, it's not Joel's fault. I can see Daniel in the comments blaming Joel. Joel is an innocent man. For once, it's not him. It's me. So I apologise. But thankfully, we're here and we are ready to dish out some awards, which should be good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this. It's one of those things. It's one of those where it could not be helped. We just had to rearrange, not once but twice, and I forgot to change the start time on YouTube. So that one's on me. But yes, we are here to dish out Hearts Standard end of season awards. I was going to send you a couple of. I was going to send you a couple of more when I was writing mine out, because it's all very, very positive, and that's what awards are. They're positive, and it's been a positive season. So we'll might add to that for the written piece tomorrow. But
there were one or two ones where I could be negative here. I was like, no, I like to see the good in people. I like to be positive when I can. So I thought, no, I'll be nice. I'll be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering whether we go for not a couple of really negative ones, but something to balance out. But we might amend that. But yes, the awards we're about to discuss. So I think it's all very, very positive from the season so far. But before we get to the awards, of course, we need to talk about our sponsors. I don't have the script in front of me. I do have it now. Viessmann. Renowned for
the memorized by now.
I know the amount of people that have said to you, so why don't you just record it and then just put it in every time? I was thinking our setup is not nearly as complex as that. We basically just hit record, we talk, and then we just upload the whole thing straight to a podcast. So that would be too much work involved to put stuff in. So I'm more than happy just to read this out every single time. Viessmann, renowned for their exceptional German engineering, is a leader in the boiler industry worldwide. They've now partnered with Scotland's own award-winning installation team, MPH Boilers, for a collaboration that's a match made in Scotland. When it comes to heating, Viessmann Boilers stand out with efficiency and reliability. Thanks to their advanced technology and with the local expertise of MPH Boilers, you're guaranteed top-tier installation and service. Together, they're offering an unbeatable deal: a free internet controller with every Viessmann boiler, making it effortless to control your heating. Plus, they're throwing in the first year's service for free, ensuring your peace of mind. If you've been thinking about upgrading your boiler, there's never been a better opportunity. With Viessmann's world-class engineering and MPH Boilers' award-winning service, your home heating is in the best hands. Viessmann and MPH Boilers. It's a match made in Scotland. Don't wait until it's too cold. Check them out today and step into a warmer, more efficient home. There we go. So I will now switch across to the my notes for the award. So will we go in order that I sent them to you?
Sure, yeah, dealer's choice. Yeah.
Yes. So the first one is perhaps the easiest and most obvious. Player of the season.
Step forward, Odell. Yeah, it's Lawrence Shankland. Of course it is. For basically, for the reasons we've covered a lot already. Won every individual award going in Scotland. He's had the best season of any player in Scotland comfortably. It's one of the best individual seasons by a Hearts player in recent memory. Indeed, there's an argument to me it's one of the best individual seasons a Hearts player's had. Perhaps ever, maybe would you throw it in there in terms of? I guess he didn't actually win anything trophy wise, but in terms of his overall contribution to the team, there's not many, right?
So I'm glad you kind of started on that line of thinking, because when writing about it, because we'll release an article tomorrow with all of the awards and James and I's picks for each of them and why we felt that way. I kind of wrote about Shankland in that Stephen Naismith suggested it's a campaign. Like, we won't understand the magnitude of that campaign for another few years. I kind of disagreed with that, because I think every Hearts fan knows that we just witnessed something really, really special. And throughout the season, there was this discussion about the comparison to Rudy Scatchell's influence during his spells at Hearts. Shankland, I think, by the end of the season, went beyond that. I think he represented something much more than being a very, very special player. I think we talked about it before. I don't know if we did it on just when we've been at a game or in the pub, or if on one of these calls where we talked about Shankland and legendary status. Look, I think there's two areas you go down to get that legendary status. You win silverware, or there is a prolonged period of time you are a success. So Shankland doesn't really fit into either category. So he's kind of in that tier just before legendary status, but literally couldn't have done any more across the last 2 seasons to get there.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, again, when you go over the 2 years he's now been in Guardian, it's just, yeah, I mean, it has just been remarkable. Again, it's like, something we've said a few times throughout the season, but the big thing that always jumps to mind when you watch Shankland is once in a generation player. Before Shankland, it was Scatchell. Before Scatchell, it was Robbo. Probably you need to go back to it's like these kind of guys. They don't come around very often. And I mean, all we can say is that obviously his future's up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen, but certainly the last 2 years, I mean, there's not going to be any fans who are going to forget about Lawrence Shankland anytime soon. I mean, the amount of amazing memories he's brought, the amount of amazing moments, exciting moments that I'm sure we're going to talk about. He's left quite the impression, and I think no matter whether he leaves this summer, maybe leaves next summer, maybe he commits to his future and stays a wee bit longer. No matter what, he's going to leave with his head held high and with a near immaculate reputation, I would think. Yeah,
absolutely. I think in terms of the only way to denigrate his standing with the Hearts support is if he moved to Hearts. That's obviously not. He moved to Hibs. That's obviously not going to happen. And then if he moved to Celtic, that would be quite frustrating, quite annoying as well. And then if he went to Rangers, it's just that frustration of seeing someone still in the league, but for what he's done, he really could have the pick of what he wants to do next. We won't really talk about his goals because I'm sure we'll mention some goals as we come on. So from the player of the season to the not Lawrence Shankland player of the season, I think it was only fair to have 2 separate awards for this.
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, there's not much suspense, is there? So this is a bit more fun. It's a wee bit more open because I think it's a wee bit more of an open question at this stage. I think there's probably 4 or 5 names you could probably chuck in there.
Yeah, so just when you say, because I'll bring in, guilty for not bringing in some comments just yet, but like the Source Networker says, top player Shankland, Benny, Kent, Kingsley, Vargas, Oda, Cochrane, mentions Alan Forrest as well. Graham mentions Frankie Kent. So there is a number of different options. Who did you go for in the end?
Well, I agree with Graham. I went for Frankie Kent. I think that he's just been, obviously since he's come in, first and foremost, he's played a lot of minutes. He's played a lot of games. That's obviously good. The fact that I think that is in itself as an endorsement of his ability. Good players are going to play more regularly. But then I think more importantly, it's the consistency you get out of him. Like since he's come in, there's been 1 or 2 moments within games, I think, where he's made mistakes. He's not been perfect, of course he hasn't. But it's hard to look back and think of Kent had a really bad game that day. It doesn't really happen. He gives you a kind of 7 out of 10 most weeks, I feel. Sometimes it'll go up to an 8 or a 9, other weeks it'll maybe go down to a 6. But, he's a very, very consistent performer. And to be honest, I think it's got to be Kent. The only other player who I think I was really torn between Kent and Kingsley as well, for much the same reason. Basically, just again, really consistent performer, doesn't really have bad games, plays basically every game, and obviously in Kingsley's case, has played literally every position in the defence. Left back, wing back, right wing back, anywhere across the back 3, anywhere in the back 4. He's just fine with it. So, yeah, I think I feel a wee bit bad for Kingsley, but I think Kent probably just edges him for me.
So I'm fortunate because I've seen all your answers, but you've not seen any of seen any of mine. So the two names you said there were the ones that I considered, Kingsley and Kent, and I wanted to spread the love around, so I went to Kent for a different answer. So I'll speak about Kent when we get to that. So I went for Stephen Kingsley for the not Lauren Shankland player of the season. I just think he has been absolutely fantastic and so consistent. So it's a lot of what you said about Frankie Kent, I think rings true for Stephen Kingsley. He's so consistent, so reliable. Even more impressively, you mentioned the positions he was playing. I think he has played, if I get this, if I'm right, I'm sure he has played left wing back, right wing back, left back, right back, left off a back three, right off a back three, centre off a back three, left off a centre back partnership, and right off a centre back partnership. He's played in every position imaginable in the defence, in a defensive situation, and he's never let the team down. Last season was a tricky season for him on and off the pitch. He's came back and he has just been brilliant. He's barely put a foot wrong. He is like just that reliable presence. He's great in there. I think he's now transitioned from being a left back to just actually being a centre back who can play left back rather than a left back who can play centre back. And he's the type of player who I think you just want in your team, your squad consistently, where there's when Hearts are building a squad, there's going to be young guys who come in, develop, sell on, or guys who maybe short term, guys who come from the academy. A player like Stephen Kingsley, he is someone who provides continuity throughout. He understands Scottish football, and he's been brilliant. And I feel sorry for him because I just think with last season, where maybe his form dipped, he'd had injuries as well, that he kind of just fell out the Scotland reckoning just a wee bit. And I think he just missed out on the Scotland squad when I thought he had a really good chance to get there.
Yeah, I personally, I would take him in the squad just purely because of his versatility. And obviously, we know that Scotland have got problems at right wing back as well, which again, obviously, it's not Kingsley's natural position, but he could probably flag him in. I think we've seen this season he could do a job. Although it might be a difference the way that Scotland want to play, but yeah, I mean, he has had a brilliant season, and like you're saying, he seems now to be more of a kind of natural centre half rather than a full back playing in there. And I guess the one thing you'd maybe look at him and go is like, oh, he's maybe a bit wee to be playing in the middle. But then you look at I don't have the stats at hand, but like his aerial dual success rate and things like that is actually really good. Like he's actually really good in the air. Like he's got a really good leap on him, and he reads the ball really well and anticipates it really well.
67% success rate in the league.
That's good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like for a centre half. Like I know that's kind of, we don't have much context, but yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
I always feel that so basically Halkett was a monster when he's played, and he's usually around 70%. So kind of that mid 60s to 70% is really, really good. Both him and Kent fall within that. Rose doesn't.
I was going to say, I don't know what Rose is on, but it's probably about 50 odd, I'd imagine.
I was looking earlier on, I can't remember where Rose was. He certainly was in the 60s, I don't think. I've just seen you asked me about names of awards, if I was going to do come up with quirky names. Some of them I have. So some of them have. William Harding gave a really good award name, which I wish I came up with. Kingsley with honorary Michael Smith, Mr. Reliable Award. I think we've described both Kent and Kingsley as that. We'll move on to most improved player. I think we have gone for the same player.
Yeah, I think it's quite an obvious choice, isn't it? So yeah, I went for Alan Forrest just because, I mean, obviously the start of the season, the start of the campaign, Forrest, probably widely considered to be maybe a fringe player, maybe someone who might play, dropping in and out the team. And then you fast forward to now, and he's played the 8th most minutes of any player at Hearts. When you look at just the forward areas, only Shankland's played more minutes than him. Again, I think with that, that tells its own story. The fact that you've got these players played so consistently, so regularly, and with good reason as well. So I think Forrest has really came on to a game. He looks really settled in the side now, and he's had that versatility where he's played different roles, different positions, always gave a good account of himself. And his 2-year extension is more than justified, I think. Again, I think he's earned it, and again, he's shown that he's got a place in the squad going forward. The only other player I did consider for this one was Callum Neuenhoff. He was another name.
I was going to say that Chris makes a good point. I think Chris makes a good point that most improved Vargas, that you could look at this two ways. You could look at someone improved from the start of the season to now, or from last season. I think we both went from last season to now.
I think that was my thinking.
Vargas is another good shout. I think he's certainly most improved in terms of production. Callum Neuenhoff, like you said, was a really good one, and I wonder if he had continued that trajectory and played the whole season, that he might have just snuck in ahead of Forrest.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because obviously, he had this upturn in form, but it was also about 10, 12 games long at the most. It can't be much longer than that. Then he gets injured and he's out for the rest of the season. So again, if he'd had that upturn in form and maintained it, and stayed fit, then he's definitely a bigger contender. But I think just because, relatively speaking, his patch where he was struggling and a patch where he really kicked on, it's just not. I think it's not the biggest sample size, I suppose.
Just on Vargas, Chris said Vargas looked lost when he arrived. Now he's banging them in and running right. You can definitely see a player who's more confident, more just at home in his surroundings, which I agree with. But yeah, Forrest, the way I described him was he's similar to Kingsley and that he's reliable in a variety of different positions. We've seen him have a lot of positions in this season, the forward areas. And I just think he's went from a squad player last season who played in a lot of games but didn't have a massive amount of minutes to important first team player this season. With his role. Moving on to best signing. So this is where I've got Frankie Kent here, and with Kent, I thought he was the best signing because he was a signing that Hearts needed. I feel that last season when the wheels they came off, Hearts missed a dominant leading centre half who just does the nitty-gritty and Scottish roll, heads, blocks, clears, and just organises with Halkett out injured. Kent has came in that and just went above Halkett, because Halkett's not played all that much this season. You can straight away see he's a leader, he's an organiser. He is, and the recruitment team deserve a massive amount of credit for unearthing or picking him out from down south, and not just his influence in the team. It's his on the pitch. His influence away from the pitch. He's a really popular member of the team. I think he's quite a vocal member of the dressing room as well. So yeah, he was a standout for me. I understand that you didn't go for Kent to sign of the season because you had picked him as the not Lawrence Shanklin player of the season. So who did you go for?
Yeah, I was trying to spread the awards around because I didn't want to do that. I think you're right. I mean, I've maybe cheated as well a little bit here, because I think if you look at this season in terms of what the players have come in and what they've offered, I think you're right. It probably has to be Kent. I've maybe cheated a little bit though, because I've now decided to start looking beyond this season, a few years down the line, and therefore I've gone for Kenny Vargas, because I'm looking at him just now and I think he's had an excellent season since he came in. Again, we talked about a wee bit of a slow start, but really came onto a game, particularly during the second half of the season. And the thing that really excites me about Vargas is probably just his potential. Like, you can see that he's clearly quite raw in places. There's certain things where you just kind of think, oh God, if he just refines this little bit of his game here, gets a little bit better at that. But I do think that there's a really, really good player in there, and I think that he's a sort of player where if he continues to develop, if he continues to try and make good on his potential, I suppose. He's exactly the kind of player that Hearts a few years down the line could be selling and bringing in a few, 2, 3, 4 million, who knows? Obviously depends on how he gets on, but you can see he's exactly the kind of player you can see fetching a decent sized sum further down the line. Whereas Kent, probably not, just because of his age and his profile and that kind of thing. So I think that I'm maybe cheating in that I'm kind of looking forward, in terms of though, the players that came in, and what they contributed, and how much they could potentially be sold on for further down the line, I'm going to go with Vargas, which is cheating.
I mean,
but again, well, let's spread the love around. Anyway, it's wee Kenny. You want to give him he deserves something. Come on.
I think it's only fair to spread around, and you came at it from a different angle as well. Like I said, there's two different. There's signings are made for different reasons. Kent was very much a here and now to make an impact straight away. Vargas, there was always going to be that time to adapt, and then I just think teams will look at him and his the way he's adapted. Like Social Network says, was a massive change for Kenny and his family. He came across here as a young guy. His son's back in Costa Rica and he's at home, and he has. He's shown great attitude, great endeavour on the pitch, and I think clubs will look at that, and that will be a massive kind of a tick in the box when they're doing their scouting. That this guy has come across to Scotland and adapted quite quickly for how young he is, and how different the culture is.
That is the other thing as well. I think is that we know that he didn't score until November. I think it was against Livy. That was his first goal.
Yeah,
but even that first, it was 10, 11 games, whatever it was. He wasn't scoring goals, but you could see there was no doubt in his work ethic or his application. There's times he was playing right wing when he was always tracking back, getting involved. Putting in the hard yards, and you could tell that the goals would probably come with a player like that. It's like you could tell his attitude, the way that he played the game, getting stuck right in, like. That's these are all perfect characteristics for playing and succeeding in Scottish football. So it's like even at that point in the start of the season where he wasn't really scoring, he wasn't really getting assists, you can still see hang on as a player in here. And he's also is it 3 times he's hit the bar from a really very long range. So it's kind of like, if he gets that's a couple of goal season contenders in there, perhaps if he's just a few inches better. I guess the flip side of that is he's had a few honking misses as well. Martin springs to mind, which was I almost put that in for my. I don't want to spoil the upcoming awards or anything, but we've got one for surprise of the season. I was very tempted to put that in, but I thought no, I'll be nice.
I think you look at him and what he's done this season with, I think 9 goals. You look at him going ahead for a few assists as well ahead next season, where they can. 15 would be a really good target, and again we talked recently about Shankland replacing his goals next season if he moves on. Vargas is definitely one to make that leap. We'll move on to the Mauricio Pinilla at Aberdeen award for best goal of the season. There are so many. There's so many issues that you can literally do. Something we are going to do with. We're going to be rating every Lawrence Shankland goal this season. You could have a category on its own for Shankland with some of his finishing. I didn't pick a Shankland goal.
That's interesting.
I know. I mean, there's so many I could pick. I know you've got a Shankland goal. So there's like the one against Hibs, the one against St. 2 against St Mirren are possibilities. There's a goal against Livingston and Aberdeen outside his right foot. There were possibilities. Then there's the goal against Ross County where he passed it in the net. You've got James Forrest raking it in against Hibs. You've got Stephen Kingsley scoring against Celtic.
Alan Forrest, sorry.
Alan Forrest. There was a James Forrest comment in the comments. It's so been talking about James Forrest for so long. It's sometimes hard to just to get that out of your head. But I went for a goal that is in keeping with the goal that this award's named after, and it's a team goal. And I went for Cammy Devlin's against Livingston. Just something a bit different, and I really enjoyed it just because of the different aspects of it. The Devlin starting play, deep in his own half, the involvement with Barry Mackay, the overlap and run from Cochrane, the first time cross from Cochrane, Shankland's touch in the build-up as well, just sublime. And then the fact that it's Devlin in the box finishing it with a first-time finish through the legs of Shamal George as well. Yes, it's Livingston, but I thought it was a really nice team goal. And but there's so many. Again, like Graham says, Tagawa on Sunday. There's another
contender.
Possibility. So I went for that. What about yourself? What have you gone for?
So I went for Shankland's goal at Easter Road. I think that, don't get me wrong, I think just, if you just showed that clip of the goal on its own, everyone's going to go, oh yeah, brilliant goal, because you can see, he's off balance, the way that he just kind of, manufactures it out of nothing. The finish is excellent, of course. He's doing it all kind of at pretty much full pace for Shanklin, to be honest. But it's all brilliant. So if you just showed that goal, someone, everyone's going to go, oh yeah, great goal. Then it's when you add in the context, I think that's when it's hard to overlook it. 93rd minute, Easter Road. Mr. Hart steps up and pulls another rabbit out of a hat in the last minute, right into the the stand with all the away fans are going bananas behind them. Just fantastic. I mean, it's really, like you said, there are contenders. The other one I was very tempted to go for was his goal against St Mirren the other night.
Yeah,
just because. Again, when I'm often doing this goal of the season stuff, and I'm looking at it like week wide or whatever, I always look for what was a great goal that made me go, oh, I don't think I've seen a goal like that before.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, we talked about it. He has actually scored one like that before, but you know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing where it's like, that's a rare hit. Not many people can do it like that. You see guys, scudding it in from 30 yards every so often. Yeah, that happens. People do that. But like that kind of ball, the way he hit it, the trajectory of it, just unusual and great. Like, so I was very tempted to go for that, but I think when you add in the context, it's got to be the Easter Road goal, I think.
And the fact that the goal, that St Mirren goal, was his 30, got him to the 30 mark as well.
Yeah.
But I think even further context with the goal at Hibs, you're right in just like the moment, the Derby last minute, but he missed a penalty in that game to start the game. And I think he'd probably admit this himself. He was terrible that game. He was miles off it. And then he just does that. And that's just kind of just Lauren Shanklin and not really Lauren Shanklin. I'm not sure, because he's usually so much of a focal point for Hearts. But even when he's not great, he's still producing. And we had the angle on that goal as well, sitting in the press box, and it was just unbelievable. So yeah, that was the consideration for best moment of the season, which we'll get to soon. So like I said, Graham went for Forest against Hibs. There was a couple for Tagawa against Rangers. William Harden says best first goal, Alan Forrest's header away from goal that led to an own goal against St Mirren. Still not sure how that ended up in the back of the net. Jim Ogg says not a great goal, but in terms of importance, we can't look past Alex Lowry's against Kelly in the Cup. It was a moment our season felt like it was moving in a positive direction. Naismith spoke about that at the start, where he said that spoke about that last week, where he talked about kind of key games that were help like in turning around the season. That was one he picked out.
That's a drum I've been banging all season. Like, I'm very much of the opinion that was a huge game.
Yeah.
Because obviously with all the the banners and all that kind of stuff, there was serious pressure. That was a big turning point. So yeah, no, I appreciate Jim's perspective there. But like, yeah, God, still Shanklin, come on.
So we move on to the David Clarkson Award for Best Save. This is, of course, in honour of Craig Gordon's unbelievable tip around the post against Motherwell back in 2005. What save did you go for?
So again, this might just be a kind of recency bias creeping in, but I went for Xander Clark's save against Dessers on Saturday. Now, I think it's mainly because, again, when I'm trying to think of this kind of thing, I'm trying to judge it. I look at, I remember at the game, when Rose gets dispossessed, McCausland slides it across, utterly convinced it's going to end up in the back of the net. Just like, okay, that's a goal. And somehow it doesn't go in. So Clark rushes out, gets makes it small, and okay, it's helped by the fact that Dessers, it's not a great finish. Okay, that maybe detracts somewhat from the save, but I do think of when I look back at the season, I'm trying to think of times where I was like, okay, that's surely a goal, that's surely in. That's the one that really stood out to me, going like, oh God, he somehow kept that out. So I think I'm going to go for that, but again, I definitely place more like credence on your pick, because as a goalie, you've probably paid more attention to this kind of thing, and I'm just gonna who cares about the goalie? What about the rest of you?
I watched a lot of Zander Clark saves this season. This afternoon in preparation for this. There was quite a few. There was 2 against Kelly and 2 against Dundee, where I'm thinking that's a really good save, where the ball's being crossed in. It should be a header, and he's coming from one direction, it's headed back from in the direction he came from, and he's made a really good save. But like Graham says here, I can't look past his penalty save at Easter Road. Watching that back, it's still such a big save. Yes, there's the context as well, because it was at a time where Craig Gordon had come back and he was fit, and there was a lot of a little clamour for him to be back between the sticks, and that Hearts had missed an early penalty, and then to give Hibs penalty, and for them to have that opportunity to change that momentum. And who knows what would have happened if Hibs had scored that momentum to win in terms of the nature of the season. But in terms of the save itself, I struggle when it comes to a goalkeeper saving a penalty. I struggle to think, oh, that's a great save. It's usually you're usually kind of critical of the miss, whereas this time around, it was it was actually a decent penalty. It was 500 at the corner, and Clark gets across so well and tips onto the post. So it was just such a huge save, and that's a real big moment for Zander Clark. And I think it's at times probably been a difficult season for him just because of the noise around the goalkeeping position. Naismith asked it a lot. Craig Gordon's asked about it every time he speaks to press. Zander Clark's asked about it every time he speaks to press. But the fact that Clark has, I think, been so consistent and done so well, I forgot to look into the final stats in terms of goal prevention, which Opta do to kind of measure the performance of goalkeepers, which I am doing now as I
think I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's actually fairly average in terms of that. Like, he might be maybe a little bit better.
He is, yeah. Well, according to Opta, he was the 4th best in the league.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
Dimitar, Mitov and Kelrus by far were prevented the most goals, but again, they were St Johnstone Aberdeen goalkeepers who faced a hell of a lot more, probably a lot more shots.
Yeah, Mitov in particular, he's been a busy man this season.
Yes. In terms of other saves, so Sourcebank said Craig Gordon's block v Morton. Graham, Jim Og says with the Clark save, James is picked. Had Gordon done that, it would be rated so much higher by our support. And then Jim, Clark Penn save has to be the choice. Now we move on to the Suso Santana at Falkirk Award for Best Individual Performance. All these awards are just basically some of my favourite moments or featuring some of my favourite players. And this came in
your quiz, your rules.
Yeah, this came in a League Cup performance where we lost at Falkirk, but it was an unbelievable individual performance. Again, it would be easy to do a top 5 of Lauren Shanklin, but who did you go for?
So I was thinking about this, and I kind of struggled with this one, to be honest, because I think there's been lots of very, very good performances, and there's lots of performances where I give someone an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But I don't know if there's been that many where I'm like, oh, Joe, that guy played an absolutely brilliant game. He basically didn't do anything wrong. We all know that I would be dishing out 10s to Benny Beningame quite a lot of the time as well, but it's not the most exciting position, I suppose, and a lot of stuff's not particularly sexy. Fine. So in the end, I went for Macaulay Tate for his performance off the bench against Dundee back in January, when he came on, in fact, to replace Benny. I think it was the 56th minute, if memory serves me right, and it was only his 3rd senior appearance. He'd played a couple of games previously where he'd come off like the bench for the last 5 minutes or so. And I thought he was absolutely sensational in that game. I thought he came on, didn't put a foot wrong, came on at a time when the system had changed, the momentum had kind of swung a wee bit behind Hearts again, and he was utterly instrumental to that comeback. I remember afterwards looking at his radar for that game, just like putting that performance and comparing it to the average midfielder's performance. And
that was unreal.
It's one of those things, okay, take it a huge pinch of salt. It's this one game, it's not even like a whole game, it's only 30 minutes or so, fine. But when you see it, it's like, you've got the average, which is like a little blue circle in the middle, and then you've got Tate, which is this huge one going around it. And it's basically, it's like Matt O'Reilly levels for me, in terms of like what his radar looks like on a good day. So yeah, I thought that day is excellent, absolutely brilliant. I'd like to give it to him because I think he deserves some recognition because I think he's been a really exciting player. So yeah, I'll go for that.
Yeah, when I read that, I thought that was a really good shout. Just he was transformative in that win, and him coming off the bench, and again, just a young player, exciting to see. When I first thought about it, I was leaning towards Alan Forrest at Livingston. When we went 2-1, it was a really, really good performance. He had 2 assists in that game, and
that was right before the winter break, wasn't it?
Just before the winter break. He was really, really good, and that's where I remember someone tweeting me comparing him to Park Ji-sung when he was at Man United. That's a really good comparison. But I've gone for, it's not going to be the last time I bring up this game, but it's Cammy Devlin's performance against Rosenborg at the start of the season. It was yes, he scored 2 goals, but if you remove the 2 goals, his all-round performance was just pure Cammy Devlin, just so much energy, and it kind of just fit into what Hearts fans needed. It just resonated or reflected the atmosphere. He just covered every blade of grass, and he did so much running, and with his enthusiasm, he kind of set the tempo for Hearts. And yeah, it was just a fantastic individual performance. And it was like the second year running, because against Zurich in the playoff 12 months previous to that, he was absolutely brilliant at Tynecastle. So yeah, I went for Cammy Devlin.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I can see as well in the comments that where was it? Got Graham saying that Cammy Devlin v Kelly was sensational.
Yeah,
absolutely was. That was another one, obviously from just last month that would have been now. Great performance. And the other one that a couple of people saying Hoff versus Airdrie in the cup, which again, absolutely brilliant performance. Hard to disagree with it, but again, I think that there's part of it getting taken away, the fact that it's against lower league opposition. Yes. That takes some of the shine off it. Yeah, like I feel a bit mean doing that, because again, a great performance, but I'm sticking with Tate. Even though it's not even a full 90 minutes, which is again cheating, but fine.
And then I'm Jules 123 said Clark was very good against Celtic, penalty save and some other important saves, which was also the case as well. That was the best individual performance. The 4-0 v Celtic award for best team performance.
Quite similar to the name, to be honest. I think we can all guess this one, right? I'm assuming we're agreed that 2-0 win at Parkhead, right?
Yeah, it could only be that. It could only be that.
Just totally complete performance for the full 90 minutes. Obviously going ahead 2 goals up after half an hour in very unexpected fashion, particularly after coming off the back of the defeat at Aberdeen the week before. And I think this is something you maybe said in your season review, but it's that idea of like, Celtic could have played all day and they weren't scoring a goal. Like, Hearts didn't, they just got the game plan absolutely spot on. I thought in particular that I remember the midfield of Benny, Denham, Grant were absolutely brilliant, particularly off the ball. I mean, they were absolutely brilliant in what they did. And yeah, like, come the end of it all, it was, 2-0 was an absolutely fair result. Yeah. And also, of course, we got to see Santa getting booed at halftime as well, which was a great laugh. So there we go. Great game.
It was this could have been into any. This week could have fit into a few of the categories, or a couple are still to come up, but because of the way Celtic we weren't able to get into the press box for that game. So I actually went in the away end with Craig from Big Hearts, and it was just such a surreal experience, because while Hearts were really comfortable, you've just been stung by that before, where you're at the Old Firm winning and you're thinking, it shouldn't be this comfortable. What's happening here? I should still be really, really nervous. And then you had Joe Hart getting criticism because he kept punching the ball. You had Mikey Johnston being cheered ironically.
That game, he was rotten.
He was so bad. He was cheered ironically when he was subbed. And then, like you said, Santa booed, and Celtic fans turning on the board as well. So there was just a mixture of brilliant stuff on the pitch tactically, and then Celtic fans being irate off it. It's like a real nice, real just enjoyable mix. And as we can see from the comments, that I think everyone was in agreement that it was a 2-0 win at Celtic Park. Jim Ogg says, never seemed in doubt either. First time I've ever felt comfortable watching us being ahead. And then, like Graham says, even 4-0 v Celtic at Tiny, I couldn't relax till the 89 minutes. So, yeah, that's just the nature of leading against Celtic.
Yeah.
We'll move from... So that was the best team performance. We'll move on to the best moment. That could have certainly been in there. But what did you go for? What did you go for best moment?
So again, yeah, it's like also there's been things like the Shankland goal could easily be in there, or a couple of other things. But I went for the very last moment of the season, just because it was great fun. It was a lot of fun, just obviously big hoof up from the goalie, flicked on from Kent. Here he comes, big Kioski, sprinting full pelt, catching the ball perfectly, rifling it in. Last kick of the season, snatches a draw, ends up losing streak against Rangers. And again, it's that player that we've spoken a lot over the last week or so. So much goodwill. Everyone wants to see him do well. And so for him to score that goal, again, at that moment against Rangers, to just round off the season and to get another huge chorus of on the go. Just great fun. Just brilliant all round. Just I thoroughly enjoyed that moment. So I'm going to have to go for that. Even though it didn't really mean anything, really, which is maybe a bit bad, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself when that went in. That was a great wee minute or so. Like, loved it.
I was considering best moment as the first Tagawa goal because out of the two of us this season, only one has properly celebrated in the press box, and that was you when Tagawa scored against St Mirren. So it would be easy, like John says, can only be that goal at Easter Road, 93rd minute or whatnot. Wonderful. That definitely would have been,
It would have been 9, but again, I've already used that for goal. So I was like, right, I can't. I'll need to change it up again. I didn't want to repeat myself.
So it would have been mine, except for this moment, and it was leaving Tynecastle after the Rosenborg game, just because it was just knowing that you seen a special European night under the lights, because my generation of fans, younger than me, didn't really have a big European night at Tynecastle to talk about. We've played at Murrayfield lots. There was a Stuttgart game, but ultimately Hearts went out on away goals. So you'd heard stories about the kind of big European nights in the past, like namely beating Bayern Munich, but kind of few and far between since then. And to come from behind against Rosenborg certainly felt special. And it was definitely one of those moments where I wish I was sat in my season ticket seat rather than in the press box. But it was just kind of coming out afterwards, and like Gorgie Road was just such a buzz. Folk were still like just milling about, kind of piling out of pubs, just having a sing, and it was just enjoying the moment. So yeah, the whole beating Rosenborg, the atmosphere, the performance coming from behind, Shankland's goal as well. It was just just a brilliant moment that was certainly one of the high points of the first few months of the season.
Yeah, no, I think I can certainly understand that. But again, you've cheated because you've not picked something from a game. Shocking. Disgraceful.
did it have to be from a game? I thought it was just.
I suppose that wasn't in the question. Yeah,
yeah.
I suppose. Okay, fine. But I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it.
I didn't specify specifically. So we've got 3 more awards to hand out, and we will go for surprise of the season.
So for me, I went for the unbeaten run, the big run, the 12 wins out of 13, starting off with that game at Parkhead, of course. We won't focus too much on the game that ended it. Again, we're trying to be positive, we're trying to be nice, so we won't bother about that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a sensational run of form. 12 wins out of 13 in all competitions. The only kind of blip being that 2-2 draw at home at County. And of course, there were those big moments in it, like the win at Easter Road, that was in there. Of course, the win at Parkhead, that starts it. And I think that, I remember at a press conference a couple of weeks ago, even even Stephen Naismith said that it kind of caught him by surprise. He thought obviously he thinks his team can win going into every game and they can do well, but it didn't think he expected 12 in a row or 12 out of 13. And I don't think many fans will have either, even though it's kind of dyed in the wool, maroon tinted fan going would just go didn't see that coming. So I think that was really the moment where Hearts went from kind of like, oh, okay, they're kind of right down the hunt for third, who's it going to be, blah blah blah, and then by the end of that run it's like, okay, no, it's Hearts. It's like that was the difference. That was what kind of elevated Hearts and gave them that foundation to push on, I think, for the rest of the season. So I think it's got to be that, just because I'm sure you'll correct me here, but I don't really remember Hearts going on a big huge run like that before, not in the last few years anyway.
So there's been
not in the Premiership, but obviously in the Championship.
So being in Championships, there has been over the last kind of certainly over the last few years, there's been a couple like 10-game unbeaten runs, I think, but there was one in so I think there was one in 15-16, and then there was another in there might have been one in the season we finished third before. There was like 9 or 10 games, and then there was one that was 12 games under Levine, but there was like loads of draws. So there's not been a run where Hearts have like winning 11 out of 12, being unbeaten in 12. There's not been a run like that in a very long time. So, and the fact that it came after such a low, after getting beat by Aberdeen, having been leading 1-0.
It did come out of nowhere a little bit, right? So I still remember I was doing that podcast before the trip to Parkhead, and we were just kind of like, right, we'll just we'll go there, we'll take our medicine, we'll get up the road, let's just let's just keep it respectable, and hopefully it's not too bad, and we can slink.
Yeah, because I remember the name of the name of the show was Can Hearts Get a Result at Celtic Park? And just folk in the comments like, no, finish talking. Then Hearts did. So that's definitely, you could talk about Celtic, you could talk about that unbeaten run. I do like Graham's one, and I might need to look into this for the last time Hearts actually achieved this. Not getting a red card all season is big. That is wild, considering Hearts' disciplinary record over the years. It used to be really bad, and then it kind of just even out to just being average.
Cammy Devlin must have been walking a tightrope in a few games, though, because he's been booked quite early on in quite a few games, and let's be honest, he doesn't really seem to care if he's booked or not. He's still going to go flying in.
He certainly plays on the edge. My surprise of the season, and you've probably been bored of it, is the fact that Hearts won 10 away league games in a season in the top flight for the first time in over 30 years. And winning on the road, winning away from home in the top flight in the Premiership is hard. But Aberdeen have achieved 10 plus wins numerous times under Derek McInnes, and just for Hearts' status, the ambition, the expectation to wait over 30 years is being generous, underachieving, being truthful. It's embarrassing. So finally having that monkey off the back was really, really good to see. Now the penultimate award of the of our show, best tactical decision.
Yeah, so this is a tricky one, because again, I think there's been you can point to a few games this season where, certainly in the first half of the season, where Hearts maybe started a game poorly. They've made a couple of tweaks that were made from the sidelines, and then Hearts, recovered and went on to win the game. There's been a couple, or came back from drawing down at half time, maybe a poor sluggish start, to then really kicking on and going on to win the game. So there have been quite a few games like that. I think there's probably about 5 or 6 you could probably choose from.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than that, I've decided to go for something that's a wee bit broader, and that's Cammy Devlin's kind of advancement up the park, getting him playing a wee bit further forward. We've mentioned a couple of times already today. Some of his best performances this season have come as a result of that. You talked about the goal of the season. Your goal of the season is goal against Livy. That doesn't happen if he's not getting far forward. To the extent Rosenborg, it doesn't really happen if he's not getting forward. And I just think that for a player of his kind of skill set, I think he's a really unique player within Scottish football, and I think he's actually got a really kind of high ceiling in terms of the level, how far he can go and the level he can play at, and how much he can develop. And I think that we know he's like at centre mid, even he's kind of as almost like a defensive mid. We know exactly what he's all about and what he can give you. But having a player like that who can play a bit further forward, it makes such a huge difference because there's not many players that can do that. So like, tactically, it gives you so many options. And again, we've seen, and I think the performance against Kelly was probably the standout one, the one away at Rugby Park the other week. That was when, I think that was the clearest demonstration of like just how effective that can be and how difficult it is for teams to deal with. And I really like seeing it. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with that, I think.
I spoke to someone who used to be involved in Scottish football, still involved in football and European football. He was a big fan of Devlin, and he was well aware of him in his time in his A-League, and he spoke so positively about him. I've spoken to him a number of times about Devlin and just that ceiling you talked about, and he talked about that he's got so much ability on the ball, and I know that's an area that he gets criticised at Hearts, but he used it so well he used it so well in the A-League, and he just feels there's so many different strings to his bow he's too good a player to kind of give up on, and it's good to see Naismith spending time to kind of mould him into maybe a more rounded midfielder. So and when we no doubt come to talk about looking ahead to next season, he's definitely someone I'm going to be excited about to see that development, that trajectory continue. My tactical one was the switch to the back three. After the Celtic game, I think when we got beat 4-1 at home to Celtic, I mean, it was just the team just felt so naive, and it just felt so easily opened, and that was best shown with the goal by Matt O'Reilly in the 4th minute, where Kerry ran off Callum Ewenhoff, and then the defence was stretched all wide. He just got into the box and had an easy finish. Now, moving to the back three, I think from the next 6 of the next 10 league games, Hearts kept a clean sheet, and while it didn't maybe improve the aesthetics of watching Hearts, the excitement, it gave the team a foundation and a platform, and just became harder to beat. And that's where I felt that's where the unbeaten run built off. Okay, it didn't come straight away because still had a defeat at Rangers and a defeat at Aberdeen, but there were positive signs before those defeats with 3 wins in a row, and then it carried on into the long unbeaten run. So yeah, the switch to the back three was, I think, was an important one.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's really difficult to overlook that, actually, now you mention it. Like you say, I mean, it's just like there's a point where it helped to steady the ship at a time when pressure was building, and again it did. Like you say, it didn't lead to the most exciting or entertaining football at times, but it got results at a time when Hearts and Naismith in particular really needed results.
Yeah.
And now it means that they've got this option now going forward where they can play in the back three, they can switch it around. And I think having that versatility, particularly with Europe coming up, that's going to be really important. Having the players that can like we've kind of talked about, the likes of Kingsley, where they can just, without even having to bring subs on, you can change the team's shape, you can move things around and make those in-game tweaks. And I think having that, knowing that you've got that in your back pocket, it's like whenever you're playing Football Manager, it's like your default formation tends to be like an attacking one, at least if you're me, it tends to be an attacking one. But you've always got a defensive one up your sleeve for if you ever just need to shut the game down and see it out. And I think that's kind of what Hearts have now. So they've got a way of playing where they don't need to dominate possession. They don't need to, it's basically just all about preventing chances. And as you say, there's a good amount of evidence suggesting that it does do that regularly. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Actually, and again, it's one of those things where if it wasn't introduced, there's a very real chance Naismith might not even be in charge at this point in time. Like for real. So yeah, no, I think that's a really good shout. I think that's an excellent shout.
And we come to the final, I don't know, maybe the 12th, 11th or 12th and final awards of this very, very positive award ceremony. The biggest achievement of the season.
Yeah, so, well, for this one, I was kind of torn between two, and you've already used one, so I'll go for the other one then. So I was kind of torn between, one of them was the 10 away wins.
Yep.
Just because, as we've talked about, that was, that's the difference between, being scrapping with Kelly and St Mirren up until the last couple of games of the season, and becoming a bit nervy, and it's the difference between that and just cruising to third, which is exactly what happened. So again, like you say, Aberdeen have made a habit of doing it. They can do it. There's no reason Hearts can't.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things that you need to be doing if you're serious first off about establishing Hearts as this third force and getting a bit of room between Hearts and the rest. And then second is also, it's really important in terms of closing that gap between Hearts and the Old Firm. But you've went for that anyway, so I'll go for my other one, which was the 16, I think that's right, 16 clean sheets in the league this season. So obviously we've just kind of touched on that there with the back three. But again, it's like that's something that, that's basically every second game, Hearts don't concede a goal. And, if you don't concede a goal, you're in a great position to win the game. Games of football, especially if you've got Lauren Shankland up top. Because, just keep a clean sheet, Shankland scores a goal, there you go, you've won, you've got your 3 points. So, yeah, I think that's another one where I would look at that and say that's a really big step forward, particularly from last season. I think, again, those are the kind of things where it's like, winning on the road, keeping clean sheets. These are the things that it's like, you start making a habit of those.
Yeah,
that gap between the Hearts and the Old Firm will close. So that's the sort of things you have to do. So yeah, I'll go for that then.
Yeah, I was looking into. I kind of put a list of stats together at the end of the season, and the clean sheets. So 16 was the second highest, or joint second highest tally since the 93-94 season, when that was a 44-game season. If Hearts had kept one more, it would have been the joint highest with the 15-16 season. So yeah, clean sheets are absolute massive, and it's just that's big thing, and that clean sheets are massive. It's stating the obvious, but it just means that you can play. You can have an off day and still win, especially if you've got a goal scorer like Lauren Shankland, who you feel like,
especially with the Shankland factor, where it's like, it's just very much you can play against anyone. It's like, all right, just stay in the game, lock up to Lawrence, and hopefully does something. He does it quite a lot.
And obviously, you don't want to be relying on that, but it's nice to have that in the back. That's in the background, that you can just fall back on that if things are not going well. Source Deckler says biggest achievement is third, which I'll come on to because that kind of leads on to mine. Graham says from Aberdeen game in December, we played 26 games in all competitions and only lost 4, won 16. That's a huge turning point in the season. A very, very impressive run of form. So I went for, and I could easily move this to one of the more negative awards that I was going to give out, was the kind of what if. That could have also been the Mauricio Pinilla What If Award. Was reaching 68 points, but after a slow start. So, I mean, as football fans, we're always wanting more. So there has been times this season I've kind of just been thinking, what if Hearts started the season strongly? Because you just look at the first 10 league games, Hearts won just 3 of them, giving up cheap points. So you look at the home games, there was a draw with Kelly, defeat by Motherwell, and drawing 2-2 with Hibs when winning 2-0. Then there was losing 2-1 to Rangers after going into stoppage time, winning 1-0. So to go from 11 points, I think it was, after 10 games to 68 in total is a really impressive achievement. And even more so when you consider that out of the last 30 top flight seasons, on only 2 occasions has a team surpassed that, and that was Rangers. And one of those seasons was when Hearts finished second. So that was, I think that's a massive achievement considering the slow start.
Yeah, you're right. I mean that was particularly. I remember that was a lot of the chat around before the game at Ibrox, the 5-0 doing. They brought that winning run to an end, where there was a bit of like, our Hearts, are they closing the gap? Was this, is it finally happening? And everyone's going, if they just had a good start to the season, it could have been doing a Bayer Leverkusen or something. Who knows? So I think there is a bit of a missed opportunity there. And I think you're right, but I mean, but that is a good point as well that that yourself and Graham both make, that you look at it. Okay, first say third or so of the season, not great. But the flip side of that is, okay, the second 2/3 of the season is, absolutely brilliant. And it's like, okay, if you have a full season of playing like that, God knows where you're going to end up. So, yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's a really high point tally the Hearts have finished on. And, both within the context of Hearts and within the context of just finishing third in the Premiership. And again, it does underline just, how impressive or how positive a season it has been. Yeah, it's not been perfect. Yes, there are things that could have been better, but on the whole, there's not too much to be upset about. I'll say that now before we start moving on to our negative awards. But we'll probably do another show later in the week or something like that, but where we'll find all sorts of things to be upset about. But I do think that, on the whole, end of the day, league table doesn't lie, and Hearts are there on merit. And again, there's that little nagging thing of what if, though. It's like it could have been out even better. But then, that's what next season's for.
Exactly. And just going on your talking about the away wins and the difference that makes, William Hardens makes a very good point that the next closest other known firm in terms of away wins was 5. So Hearts was double the amount of the rest of the league when it comes to away wins. So it just shows you the difference. But yeah, overall, a successful season. Not a perfect campaign, but a successful one. Obviously got to two semi-finals. So I'd probably say if there was a disappointment, it would be the performances in the semi-finals, where never really saw the best of Hearts, but they're real encouragement for next season. As a source network says in a couple of posts in the YouTube comments, that there's a lot to kind of build on and look forward to next season. We'll leave it there because we've been yapping for an hour, but I would just like to say thank you very much for everyone who's watched and engaged and continues to read and support us. We'll be back with a video be next week because I am unavailable tomorrow. Graham says, as he's seen this end, I just want to say thank you to the guys and Scott for doing the show. It's always great to see you guys on and the work you guys put in. Thank you, Graham. We won't be stopping. The season might be over. We've got one more game to cover. That'll be the Women's Cup final on Sunday when Hearts play Rangers. I'll be at that, and there'll be an interview with Eva Ollard on the site over the weekend, looking ahead to that game and just the women's team in general. But we will be we'll have plenty of content up over the summer pre-season, and we will do regular videos when required, because there will be stuff to talk about. There'll be quiet periods, but there'll obviously be stuff to talk about. But until Monday or Tuesday, we'll be back. Thank you very much, and have a brilliant weekend, guys. And thank you very much, James.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.